are here right now. I mean, you talk about lean process in your shop, but what is it that this group of people here can do to assist you or help you that can make them show more value to your supplier?
You know, as we were chatting earlier about the value of Jobber, I know we're going to get into that more now later, but one term that we came up with is it's almost like how you would consider an attorney or an outside accountant. Your Jobber's a resource there for you, and the way marketing for the paint companies has evolved, you guys have caused us to expect that from you. And so anything that you can do to assist us with that process, the better knowledge that you have on that process, any people that can come in and help us implement it, that's huge. That's big. That really makes you an ally of the shop, and I think that increases your value.
I can tell you this, I've probably been in 42 states this year already, and I've only probably been home 7 days since the first of the year. So I feel like I have a really good pulse on how shops across the country feel. In all my years of consulting, I've never seen shops more beat down, more discouraged, and some mom and pops on the verge of foreclosure or bankruptcy than I've ever seen in my life. With that said, I believe that we're really getting fed up and enough is enough. Now, I'm not a DRP for anybody, but I'm not anti-insurance. I'm just pro get paid for what I do. I believe that right now the pendulum is in the insurance company's favor, and they're squeezing that because the economy and things are slow. However, I think two of the things that are holding us back as an industry is, number one is, you have a lot of people that are in business and their property's paid for, and they have no mortgage and they have no rent. So they're not forced to operate as profitably as I am, or Daryl may be, or he may be. So as they transition out in the next 2 to 3 years, either A, somebody buys their business or building and they have to make a payment, or B, they close the doors, I think you're going to see the other people have to start operating more profitably as business owners. Secondly, I think the trend of, with fuel prices rising and safety, especially side impacts, with the use of boron, steel, and aluminum, I think you're going to see the training and budgets for shops probably increase 300 to 400%. When I say 300 to 400%, I'm talking about shops training, just training budget is going to go from probably $5,000 a year for an average shop up to maybe $50,000 a year. And I think what's going to happen again, you have people that only want to be in business for another 2 to 3 years, and they're not going to invest in buying that new welder for boron steel or the new equipment for aluminum, and they're just going to say, send that stuff to Daryl's shop. And as they transition out in the next 2 or 3 years, if the other shops are left to survive, have to invest in training and equipment and operate more profitably, I think you're going to see the pendulum swing back the other way. The only concern I have is...
Okay, but what does that mean? What does that mean? The pendulum's in the insurance side right now?
I think right now everything is to their advantage. I think shops are really slow.
Okay.
I go to market areas and I see shops.
Okay, I know, I see what you're saying.
Yeah, so I think the insurance companies, which is business, they're leveraging.
There's an overcapacity of collision repair. They have lots of choices where they can fix their car, and they're leveraging that.
Right.
And that is a very interesting
point. Which I understand is a business practice, but I think a lot of shops are going to transition out in the next 3 years. That's my opinion. And I think when that happens, the pendulum is going to come the other way. And I think shops that survive, keyword survive, and really work on their businesses now. I think that's what we need to be doing, is working on our businesses and our practices, whether it's lean manufacturing training, the shops that survive and are here 3 years from now, I think they're going to do very well.
I built my shop on DRPs, and it seemed like a good model at the time. It worked well. I made a profit every year. My business grew from less than $1 million to $3.5 million, and I made a decent profit. Up until about 1.5 years ago, I started tracking my profit and seeing that it was slowly shrinking, and I'm looking into all this, and they're becoming more heavy-handed than they have. They're asking for more discounts. They're asking us to pay for rental bills if they feel it takes too long to fix the car. Something that the jobbers should be interested in. Just before I came here last week, I got a letter from one of my better DRPs, my largest DRP, and a company that's been good to me and it worked well. They are now requesting, it used to be, as an example, let's give bumper covers. We would, instead of replacing a bumper cover with a new OEM, we would recondition it. So an OEM might be a $300 bumper, and a recondition would be a $100 bumper, or $200 bumper. They save $100, and they, that was fine. And the thing is, but I made a certain amount of money on that. Okay, I made okay on those reconditioned bumpers. They came out well, I came out well. The letter I got just recently is that they want me to take those bills and mark them up 20%. So now they want to know what I pay for my products, what I pay from you guys, what I pay for aftermarket parts, what I pay for reconditioned bumpers.
What was your reaction to that? I hate to ask a pointed question, man.
I'm going to ignore it until they come to me without a letter and they talk to me in person. I've told my guys, just keep doing it as you're doing it, because this is, they are now wanting to see what your bills are to me, and then I mark it up 20%. It now doesn't seem to matter what kind of agreement I had with, I'm not talking about paint materials, that's a different subject, just aftermarket parts, radiators, AC condensers, reconditioned bumpers, things like that. Now, it doesn't what I can negotiate a price to keep my profit going. They only want me to mark it up 20%, whatever. So that's something you guys need to be aware of, that this seems to be, and I'm getting, this is not the first letter, this is not the first time, but it's a company that's a very large company that I'm dealing with. So I was very disappointed in that. And it's just something you guys need to be aware of also, that they're taking your invoices and wanting us just to mark it up 20%.
I agree with everything that Mike and Dan said. We've had similar experiences. Mike and I feel the same way about insurers, other than, like Dan, we're a company that does a lot of ERP work. And frankly, I spend more of my time on human resource issues and insurance relationships than anything else.
How many DRPs does your organization have at Lehman's Garage?
About 20.
20 DRPs.
And not all of them are in all 6 shops. And so I'm constantly working on trying to get more, maybe one that's in 1 or 2 shops to get them in others, or maybe another one that we don't have get them on. I never thought I'd say this going back some years, but a year and a half ago we ended a relationship with one company because the frustration level just got that high. And then there was another company that when the State Farm program rolled out, I went through the appropriate process, the contract, sent in my letter and said I'd like to review our rates and eliminate our parts discount. The response after a few weeks was, no negotiation, we're not going to talk about it, we're ending our relationship. I won't say who they were, but I kind of felt like they had their good hands in my pocket, and I said, fine. I love your discreet. And so they at one time were 10% of our business more recently. Before that, they were about 7 or 8%, and right now they fluctuate from one month to another, but more often than not, they're 3 to 5%.
So you're still keeping some of the volume?
Yes, yes we are. And working harder on marketing at the same time. Mr. made some very good points on that, and that's something that could be talked about later on, what a jobber could assist with. I know that we've addressed salesmanship as an issue. That DRP scenario causes us to, he said laziness, and there's some of that, but I think you automatically go into the DRP process because there's all this administrative work to handle when that customer comes in, and I think we then ignore the salesmanship part. And so we've embraced using secret shoppers and done a lot of work to improve our salesmanship.
So I want to hit on one point that you made. I heard this was there was a insurer deselection in your shop. You took them off of your program.
Yes.
And why did you do that?
Just the level of frustration.
With what? With what?
With well, for example, they had an agreement that, just as Dan alluded to, that said this is what both sides agreed to. Well, on a regular basis, they're coming to me and saying, now that you have to do the specific safety training and they're on our expense, even though the training that we were already doing in-house was better than this other process, expectations in terms of markups and things like that, and just being so dictatorial and frankly playing the role of the schoolyard bully with our staff, that we decided I think we can long vouch. And frankly, the staff, as I interviewed them, a lot of the cars that we were fixing that had this company as an insurer were coming to us before we were getting the assignment. So we felt that customer's probably choosing us anyway, so why go through the hassle of the DRP process and the aggravation with their rep? Let's just fix it in a non-DRP scenario and get retail rates.